Okay, I'm over here at the welding table, and as you can see at the back of the plate bumper assembly for the haul truck, I have started to weld gusset plates into the backside of that receiver hitch for a bumper pull trailer. Now, I haven't made any videos up until this since the last chapter that I put out, chapter 76. I haven't made any videos because I've kind of been tied up with something that I'll get into a little bit later. But as you can see, I'm starting to weld some gusset plates in here. I still plan on extending this tube up probably at an angle, at an angled pitch up to a member of the frame rail, just for added support both to the receiver bracket of the hitch, and also it will provide added support to the rear bumper, back to the frame of the truck. So yeah, I've started it. I've cut out two of them. I've got to find material to cut out the other two. I couldn't use the same material for all four of them. I just found some random pieces around laying in the bin. But anyways, this is the beginning of chapter 77, haul truck build. Again, gussets onto the receiver of the bumper pull hitch. Just a quick shot showing the second side on the gusset. Just another brief shot. I got all of it welded around. The gusset plates on those all welded around. Kind of hard to see this, but let me just get that light over there. Yeah, so I've got all four of them on there. What I'm thinking about doing now is maybe trying to get it over to the back of the truck and test fit it, but it depends on, I'm not sure if I can get it past the Corvette. You know, in the last clip I said I was going to probably take this off the welding table and take it over to the back of the truck, but the thing that I forgot about doing is cutting them holes in the back of the plate for the backup plates. Also cutting the hole for the 7-prong electrical hitch plug. But what I wanted to show you is I've had this hole cutting tool. It's actually for the plasma cutter, but I'm thinking about using it on the cutting torch. The reason why I'm not using the plasma cutter is I have no air supply over here, and I was kind of actually thinking about adapting this and using it for the cutting torch, so that I had it handy for the cutting torch also. What I have to do is make a bushing that would fit inside of this hole that is a plug for the, I'm sorry, not a plug, where the tip of the plasma cutter goes. Yeah, I'm not sure if it'd be easier to do that or be easier to try and run an airline over here to get the plasma cutter working again. Everything is all bunched up here, but see, the plasma cutter actually fits into there. There's probably a stop on it to get it to stop. Yeah, I'd have to look at it again. But I actually was thinking about, for cases where I had it and the plasma cutter wasn't available, I was thinking about hooking, building a bushing for the cutting torch. But let me bring you back and when I figure out what I'm doing. So what I did is I did make that bushing, and I'm going to throw a couple clips in here afterwards of me making the bushing, but I didn't end up using it, and that will be discussed later. But I do need to modify that thing because it is going to be handy, and I'll explain it in detail because the thing that I did make has its limitations. You have to rotate the whole thing around the piece unobstructedly, around the piece to cut it. It makes a very good cut, clean cut, when you don't run into an obstruction. And the other thing would work in with obstructions because it has a bushing on it so that you can rotate it while holding the torch kind of at one angle. You can rotate the thing around in a circle and kind of avoid the majority of obstructions. But anyways, let me just throw a couple of clips in here. The lathe in the background will come into play. Okay, so what I did is went over to the lathe and turned this down so that it fits in there. What I'll do is I'll drill a 1/2 inch hole through that to allow that torch tip to go in. I'll bring you back when I get that done. I'm not going to show it to you. It's over on the lathe. Maybe I'll just show it to you set up in the lathe and then I'll drill it. So what there is a center point. That's a center point drill, and you just are able to go in there, get a start on it so that the drill still stays centered in the piece. I've got to take that back out again and put the drill bit and back. And here is a 1/2 inch drill bit. Okay, so there's a piece. I test fitted it on. What I had to do is put a reamer on. Now, I got a 1/2 inch reamer and I put it through, and it was still a little tight on the torch nozzle. So what I did, I had this, what it is an adjustable reamer. So it's like 1/2 inch. You can crank this down and it expands it a little bit. And I did that and just ran it through, and it fits on the torch fine now. But anyways, I'll bring you back. You know, sometimes you wonder about the intelligence of people, especially engineers. So this is that pivot bracket that I was talking to you about for the torch. But anyways, the thing is this was down. This was down, and I loosened the screw to put it up. Now it's a Phillips screw, and let me see if I can do this one-handed. It shouldn't be that tight. Sorry. So I put it up so that the torch tip would be closer to where it has to be in relationship to the metal. The only problem is, how are you supposed to tighten that screw back up again when this thing is up and this wheel is in the way? Now, of course, I can remove that wheel, but is that an efficient design? I mean, who came up with this stuff? No thought, no critical thinking of saying, well, if the thing's up, how is a person going to tighten it? But anyways, yeah, I'm just kind of playing with the thing to see if it'll work right. I don't like, I don't know what happened to it, tell you the truth. There's a pivot arm, and I just had it. I took it off, and I probably sat it down someplace, but let me get it, shut you off, and I'll come back to it. There's a pivot point, but I don't like the way it's designed. Actually, I watched a guy that um, made his own, and all he did is took a piece of metal on the torch with a point on it. He had kind of a flat piece of metal that tapered down to a point, and he just had a screw that went through here into the metal, and you could adjust it by running it through that opening between the two. One is acetylene, one is oxygen. You could open it between there or adjust it between these 2 points. But let me bring you back, like I said. Okay, I gotta tell you, I'm just the way they designed this entire thing. Um, I don't know why they offset that thing. So, to begin with, what I can't do is if this rod was longer and stuck in here farther, I would be able to get the true distance. I need 2 inches. It's not quite. It's over 2 inches. It's like 2 3/8 inches that I can get. So that thing wouldn't can't work to begin with. I mean, if they provided longer rods, um, I could probably make it work. But tell you the truth, I'm kind of annoyed with the whole thing. I think the idea of what I saw with the other guy, making something that kind of bolts in between here, um, a pivot point that you can slide back and forth here would work better. And surely I can get, yeah, I can make 2 inches probably work. Let me see. It gets to the point where you get frustrated with things and get annoyed, and maybe I'll just do the exact same thing as I take a hole saw, score it, and just freehand it with after the scored. I've done the scored thing. I need a 4-inch hole for those things, so let me see what I can do. Okay, so I got the holes cut for the lights. Now, I didn't use what I said I was going to use because I'll explain it in another clip. But anyways, I've got the holes cut for the lights and the hole cut for the plug, trailer electrical plug. But anyways, I'm going to stand it up. I'm going to take it over to the back of the truck and just kind of test fit it to make sure where my brackets will go that will fit into the frame rails. But I just kind of wanted to show it to you. This camera keeps dying, and I couldn't film anything today because of the camera was charging all day long. For some reason, it took forever to charge it, and it's only up to 86% right now, being plugged in all day. I'm not sure what's going on, but might have to get a new battery or something for the camera, but I'll bring you back. Okay, so I told you that I had to bring that thing over here to the back of the truck, and if you've been following these videos, and my work on rectifying that airbag issue and then rectifying or building the bumper rear plate for the back of the truck, you would understand that this is a camera shot is probably at a different location than I normally shoot it. That's because I got the Corvette unwrapped. I'm just going to go into a brief description here about something. I took the covers off of the Corvette kind of prematurely. I mean, still, I'd like more rain on the roads to get all the salt residue off of it before I take it out. But there was an issue that I had. Last year, maybe it was the year before. No, it was the year before. So it wasn't 23, it was in 22. I actually had to replace the tires and have the car aligned. So um, I had originally replaced. I saw that there was an issue with the front tire, the front right-hand tire. There was an issue with it. There was some cord that was showing on part of the tire. So I bought a tire, got a dealership to mount took the rim off, took the old tire off, and took the new tire and the rim into a dealership to have them remove the old tire and mount it. Then, about 2 weeks after I did that, I took it back in, realizing that there was probably an issue with the alignment to cause the tire to do that to begin with. So I took it in to have it aligned. And they noticed that there was starting to be an issue with all the tires on it. So I ended up replacing all four tires. Me buying the original tire on the right front side of it, and then them getting the other three tires for me and aligning it. So that was in 22. In 23, I took it in to have it inspected by somebody else, a kind of a guy that I deal with my tool guy. I deal with this guy, and he noticed as soon as I took it in, or he took it in to inspect it, right front tire was actually totally bald. So I had put between having that tire replaced, I had only put maybe 1,800 to 2,000 miles on it. So it was in August, or actually it was later than August. It was probably September, and I was going to put the car up. Instead of dealing with it right then, I figured that as soon as I got the car out in 24, I would take care of that. So what happened is the reason why I uncovered the car is because I called another dealership. I don't want to take it back to the original ones that aligned it because very logically they didn't align it correctly for that tire to go bald within 1,800 or 2,000 miles. I got some recommendations, and it's hard to find anybody that can do good work anymore. And so I started getting recommendations on somebody, and actually my tool guy said that there was a dealership, and they had a very good guy, but he had retired, but they bring him back in for special needs. And so this is what I did: is I called this dealership. She needed the VIN number. It's a girl that's a service manager. She needed the VIN number off of the car to make arrangements for it. I explained the whole thing to her and told her what I needed, and the front tire has to be replaced, and I'm very critical about getting this thing aligned properly again. But anyways, that's kind of why I uncovered the car. I had been kind of holding off bringing that plate over, the rear bumper and the plate over, until I got the car uncovered, but that's kind of it. And I kind of went off on little bit of a tangent about nothing related to the haul truck, but about the car. But as you probably noticed, I've been throwing some pictures up here into um, this clip. This is what I had started out by telling you that I had gotten. I couldn't put a lot of time into working on that rear bumper and stuff because I had a haul that I had to make. What happened is a guy calls me up and he says, "Listen, this is a guy that I've worked with before. He happens to be a broker. I don't normally go through brokers. I just happen to know this guy, and he calls me up and has me haul stuff for him sometimes." He called me up. He says, "Listen, I've got a couple of tanks, stainless steel tanks that I need you to move. They're over in Rochester or south of Rochester, New York, and they have to be moved up by Palmyra, New York." He says there's two tanks. No, he said there's a couple of tanks, and can you do it? And I says, "Yeah, I can do it." And he says, "Well, can you come over on Saturday and do it?" And I says, "Yeah, I can do it. As long as we've got a way of loading them and unloading them, I'm good with it coming over." I get over there, and there wasn't two tanks. There was 10 tanks. And only one of them was down. And I spent the entire time, I'll put the pictures up here as I'm describing this. I spent the first half of the day loading empty kegs into this into that U-Haul van. It turned out that there was 300 empty full kegs. There's probably another. That truck was filled to the brim the first time, and then we refilled it again, probably 3/4 of again full of kegs the second time. But we did that differently, and I'll explain that. So we got two tanks onto it on this Saturday after we loaded these kegs. Got two tanks. I got another one down. We loaded it onto my trailer, took it to this place where he was going to store them, which is not his place. It's somebody else's place. And he assured me that there was a tractor, a Kubota tractor, a larger Kubota tractor with forklifts or with forks on the front that could be used to unload the tanks. We get there probably about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. This is after starting at 8 o'clock in the morning. I get to this place at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and the guy there says to him, "Oh, well, the forklift, there's a hydraulic issue with the tractor, and it can't be used to unload." So I ended up having, this is Saturday, I ended up having to leave my trailer loaded there at that place over the weekend. Now he told me, he says, "Well, come back tomorrow. I'll have the tractor fixed." And I'm thinking, there's absolutely no way in the world that he's going to get hydraulic lines for a Kubota tractor on Sunday. So I told him, "You call me, but I'm not planning on coming back tomorrow." I said, "I'll come back Monday." And this whole thing had been a fiasco because he had his son working with him. Now his son is in his mid to late 30s, and it just didn't work out. So I told him in a phone conversation, "I'll come back," and but I'm bringing my grandson with me, and he can help me get these tanks down, get them off of the dock. Getting them off of the dock was a terrible issue to begin with. There was no access to, we had a telehandler, a small telehandler that he didn't know how to operate. That's why he wanted me, so that because I could operate it. But getting this telehandler in and out of the building was a huge issue. Getting the tanks out of a small overhead door out of this building was another issue. Then once you got them out, getting them out to a place on the dock that they could be pulled off and put on my trailer was another issue. The whole thing was a fiasco. What turned out to be a couple of tanks, and probably would have been 4 hours work for me, turned into 4 days and 4 like 14-hour days of doing this. But we got them all out, and all moved over there. Over there being the place where he was storing them, which was another issue in itself, because it was an old greenhouse complex. This guy bought these old greenhouse complexes, and there's 160 greenhouses, and they're all used to grow pot now. So, I mean, the whole thing was just like a huge fiasco. But anyways, nothing turns out to be simple anymore. Hard to find anybody that's willing to work. The whole thing is just an entire issue. I mean, not only an issue with that hull and the tanks, an issue with getting people to do what they're supposed to do. If you kind of can, now that I know that there's a problem with it, you can visually see that the tire is pulled off to the side more than it should be when it's straight. Yeah, just an issue finding anybody that wants to work, anybody that can do anything, anybody that's knowledgeable about doing anything anymore. But anyways, that's my rant. This is going to be the end of the video. I'll when I get this out and it goes to the dealer for a new tire and get correctly aligned, hopefully this time, I'm going to bring it over and the plate over, bumper over, and get it start to be mounted on the rear of the truck.